I'm Austin Nicholas, the founder and CEO of GetFocused, a meeting software and training company that empowers you to conduct highly effective and engaging remote meetings. And I'd like to welcome you all to our first Focused Mindset workshop. And as the great Gary Vee says, there is no time to lose. We don't train for skill, we train for mindset. And that's exactly what we're hoping to do in this course now. So right, let's begin. So why mindset? Without mindset, you cannot create habits. Mindset creates the habits. Habits lead to actions, and actions dictate results. Habits are the fulcrum for success. Now, how you define success is entirely up to you. But typically, we're wanting to encourage people to have happy and successful lives. Mindset is effectively at the top of the pile. It was having the right mindset that led to me adopting the right habits and routines that enabled me to turn around my life and my lifestyle. I'm pleased to say I've managed to lose 14 kilograms in the last 12 so months, and I'm feeling a lot better for it and generally a lot more focused and happy in life. Now, GetFocused is the system that compounds the necessary habits and actions to routinely achieve ambitious goals through the power of accountability and radical transparency. And we're on a mission to connect people with purpose. So you connect, you communicate, and you collaborate. And communication actually stems from the word communicare, which is Latin meaning to share. And we provide the crack-the-shell experiences to really help drive purposeful communication to help build trust in your teams. Now, how this sort of came about was really, as before, I live in Latvia, and many, many years ago, before moving here, a very good friend of mine's father said to me, so why are you moving to Latvia? Or where are you going? I was saying, yeah, I'm moving to Latvia. He said, oh, interesting choice. I said, why is that, Godfrey? He says, it's a country full of walnuts. I was like, I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah, the people there have incredibly tough shells, but once you crack them and you open up, you receive something, you get something really delicious. And I did note this, and I thought that this is something that if I can help people to open up maybe a little bit more easily, a bit more comfortably, that would help build the trust in teams through sharing. But we have a problem. Typically, kind of the mindset for meetings isn't exactly positive. We spend a lot of time in them, and a lot of them are pretty useless. They don't have purpose. People are distracted, and decisions rarely made. And it sort of enables these terms here that we gather through our research is that, they're time sucking. They don't have purpose. There's no action points. Not all the key players are present. And you have those days when you're in back-to-back meetings and you think, oh, I've had such a busy day, but you come out of it having felt like you've achieved nothing. And what we're wanting to encourage is the new mindset, them to be lean and effective, and you share key information and progress. You identify the next steps. You have the right players and processes in place. And most importantly of all, you value people's time. Now, meetings will never go away. They're culture-building opportunities. There are times that you can actually spend with your people. And a recent revelation I've had is meetings aren't necessarily about working. They're about connecting. They're about communicating. They're about collaborating. And at GetFocused, we encourage players and teams to develop a new mindset to meetings, because whether you like them or not, they're here to stay. They are crucial for the growth and health of your tribe. And what are these? We call them the Plato mindset. So it's about actually being people-focused whilst relating. So it's important to be understood, or understand, for being understood. To listen and learn actively. So how do you do that? You go about that by asking a lot of questions. To be ambitious in your goal setting, and to embrace the conflict and struggle that comes about from doing that. To be transparent in actions, i.e., let go of the ego. And optimistic in attitude. It's okay to make mistakes, Aim for the stars, or aim for the moon, aim for the stars, you may hit the moon, you may land on the moon. And there's a lovely quote from Plato. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we're excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. I'm going to say that again. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we're excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. Having the right mindset develops the right habits that leads to the right actions that actually gets you into being successful. Okay, so let's unpack each of these a little bit more. So being people focused, what does this mean? Now, think about you and not your business. Kind of, you shake hands with a person, not a business. And I like this sort of character matrix that we've created. And it's important to understand these in each of your people. Kind of passions is kind of what my passion is about connecting people with purpose. The problem is kind of time is our greatest asset, and it's to spend it wisely and share it purposefully. And people, who do you like working with and why? Kind of, we actually like working with sort of dynamic, creative and open, and one almost could say chaotic companies that need support with habits and systems. Now the problem, if you don't understand each of these 3 Ps, let's say, kind of if you're just interested in what their passions are and what the problem is that you sort of that they're wanting to solve, you could come across as being a bit of a schmooze. If you're just interested in their passions but understand kind of, you know who they like and what they like, then you could be kind of just coming on. You might as well be on Tinder, and it could almost look like you're just working in sort of and wanting to date this person. And then if you're just interested in sort of what problems they're trying to solve and you've understood that kind of who they like working with, you sort of come across as being a bit of one of those networkers, and no one really warms to the term networking. But if you sort of get this overall picture between those 3 Ps, you really start purposefully communicating. Now, when you are trying to understand your team, i.e. these 3 Ps in your team, it's important that the group that you've gathered together to meet is not too large. Because by having large teams, nothing gets done. The larger the team size, the more lines of communication, increasing room for error and slowing down the process for decisions to be made and action taken. And this also helps onboarding new talent more effectively, having smaller teams, because they can understand the dynamics of the team and start proactively focusing on what matters. They begin to learn their team members' 3 Ps more clearly. Now, smaller team meetings effectively accomplish more. Google abides by this role, and with no more than 10 Googlers present at their as their meeting standard. But how do smaller meetings achieve better results? Research from Stanford University found that meetings with the highest productivity output are held with a group between 5 and 8 people. We recommend teams between 5 and 8 people, which aligns also with Jeff Bezos' 2 pizza rule. I'm a big fan of having those teams and having team names. I'm a big fan of having team names that align to a theme, whether that is project or mission or characteristic related. It serves as a purpose, and it gives that sense of belonging that we talked about earlier in our introduction video. The same way that kind of sport clubs names, colours and logos provide that sense of community. Sense of belonging is crucial to embrace new talent, and also a slice of pizza does help. Okay, listen and learning actively. Now, why do often meetings lack engagement? It's quite simple, really, because no one wants to look ignorant, no one wants to look intrusive, no one wants to look incompetent, and typically no one wants to look negative. And the problem is it's very easy to manage this, because, if you don't want to look ignorant, you don't ask questions. If you don't want to look intrusive, you don't offer any ideas. You certainly don't want to look incompetent, so you wouldn't admit any weaknesses. And you don't want to look negative and you don't want to critique the status quo. You're just happy going on with how things have always been done. Now, what is important is, in some ways, to celebrate mistakes. Excuse me. Because failure, whether you like it or not, failure is the mother of success. If you're not failing, you're not innovating. You're in your comfort zone, and often where does the magic happen? It happens outside your comfort zone. I'm a big believer that complacency is a killer. It sort of puts you into more having a fixed rather than growth mindset. Mr. Honda here. I don't want to pronounce his first name, but I will. I'll try. Soichiro Honda. He came up with this famous quote: "My biggest thrill is when I plan something and it fails. My mind is then filled with ideas on how I can improve it." Now, he was the first Japanese car manufacturer to be inducted into the Automobile Hall of Fame. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. For more than 4 decades, he battled with failures, adversities, and even bankruptcy. He even got rejection from Toyota. Thomas Edison famously tried 10,000 times to find a way to invent the light bulb. He explained, "I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that it won't work." Baseball great Babe Ruth scored 714 home runs during his career, but he also held the record for most strikeouts, a staggering 1,330. Did it faze him? No, of course it didn't. He stated, every strikeout brings me closer to the next home run. And as I touched on earlier, meetings are culture building opportunities. They allow us to engage, to learn, to innovate, to grow. And it is okay to make and embrace mistakes. And in some ways, I'd reiterate that. Embrace the mistake. Create a fuck-up board. Be open. It's your job as a leader to connect with your people, to unite your teams to one another, and to thrive as a tribe. You do this by being transparent, open, and honest. If you make mistakes more than once, then it is probably worth having a quiet word and trying to understand what's the problem here. But typically, if you're not making mistakes, you're not innovating. Okay, ambitious goal setting. Now, I am a big fan of ice dipping. I think kind of Wim Hof, I don't know if anyone has, or I would strongly recommend reading up about kind of cold water treatments and what it does to you. But what I do when I go in and do my ice bathing is always aim to sort of be thinking to yourself, you've got to embrace the struggle. You've got to breathe well, you've got to eat well, you've got to exercise well, you've got to meet well with those you're closest connected to, and you've got to sleep well. And it gives you that sense of control. And when you're setting stretched goals, you've got to understand it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to put work, time, and a consistency into effectively accomplishing those goals. And by doing that, you actually bring on the challenge and have faith that what you're doing is the right thing to achieve those goals. And as I touched on earlier, magic often happens outside your comfort zone. Sitting in a cold water certainly is out your comfort zone, but magic is happiness. And the secret to happiness is having close relationships, high self-esteem, and a sense of optimism. And in some respects, by having purposeful and really engaging meetings with those you're closest to in your organisation will help you have more sense of optimism and a better self-esteem. Now, transparent in action. It's quite simple, really. Transparency is the currency of trust. If you're open and you've got this radical transparency where progress is being monitored for the rest of the team to view, you get a sense of accountability, and you get greater trust in your relationships with those that you're closest to. And I think one has to sort of also understand that whilst you're embracing the struggle and you're after setting these ambitious goals, you've got to sort of think, where's the conflict? Because without conflict, it pretty much highlights that you don't really care, kind of. One ought to, as a team captain, encourage participants not to be shackled by these preconceptions or stuck in this sort of way of working where it's like, this is how it's always been done mindset. After all, ideas can later be disposed of at no cost to anyone and with no judgment. In Patrick Lencioni's leadership fable, Death by Meeting, Lencioni stresses that meetings are ineffective and boring because they often lack drama. or conflict, the key ingredient to make many human activities interesting. And it's often at this stage of a meeting when you can get really interested and even dramatic, as varying opinions and perspectives are shared. And at the end of the day, it does really highlight that you give a shit. Sorry, I was going to say. But yeah, you give a shit about what you're wanting to achieve. It shows you care. And constructive conflict should be embraced, not discouraged. And as a meeting participant, you should seek out and uncover any important issues which other team members do not agree on. Remember to always stress that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and as part of this meeting is supposed to be the fun, and a good tactic is to encourage participants to bring out their inner child, let go of their ego. Optimistic in attitude. That's the one that I think is very important in these days where it's been quite challenging for many. As I touched on before, happiness is progress, and close relationships is trust is a habit. They require time, work, and consistency. You can't just have a close relationship like that. It needs each of those fundamental requirements to build on a level of trust. Sense of optimism is having the structure and having a plan. It's having focus. And a high self-esteem is about making progress with purpose. And I think what we're wanting to do and what GetFocused does is it provides this structured direction and a plan to having focus with purpose. Now, there's one thing that there's a phrase I like a lot, is that's testing the market, not in your mind. And it's important to always aim to be optimistic, but never assume. The reason why is that it makes an arse out of you and me, as the old saying goes. And I think positive, test negative. I think in these darker, challenging days, I think that's been almost a guiding light for many. That you've always got to think positive, and fingers crossed, not have to deal with the consequences of being positive as well. And probably the easiest and quickest, I'm going to sit up straight now, but the easiest and quickest fix for higher self-esteem and optimism is how you're sitting, how you're acting, how you're framing yourself within the meeting and generally in your everyday life. Because straightening up and maintaining a good posture can actually help increase energy, productivity, and even reduce stress. I think being a bit of a slouch, it never does you any good. It does actually sort of give off the wrong signals, and it has a knock-on effect not only on yourself but all of those people that you are connecting with. And I think I would suggest in time for our next workshop, which would be the focused habits workshop, I'd encourage everyone to watch this wonderful film, Disney Pixar's collaboration Soul. It's very much about measuring not only just the purpose but the progress that you're aiming to achieve, or the progress on your journey to hit your purpose, let's say. And I think always encourage your players to become people-focused, not solely project or purpose-driven, because when you have a happy and healthy and balanced team, this is when truly the magic happens. And one thing I say to myself every day is I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. And by sharing experience and information, trust is built and stronger relationships established for future collaboration. Think about that. Your next meeting, be grateful. And I look forward to working with you on the next workshop where we talk more about the 7 focused habits. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye now.